Thank you very much, Wendy. Just wanted to welcome everyone. We had one of our attendees wrote in, I believe, from Romania, so I'm not sure if they're the long distance award. I'm here sitting in Connecticut right now, but just want to welcome everyone who's chosen to attend today. So I'm looking forward to the presentation here, as well as the discussion that follows. So in terms of an agenda today, some of the key things we'll be talking about are some of the overall trends that I've seen in project management. So jump back a couple slides. Important skills, I call them the 3 R's. How to leverage LinkedIn. The job search, what works and what doesn't. Networking effectively. Some resume tips. A review on interviewing. How to bounce back from a layoff, and then some employee versus consultant considerations as well I'd like to touch on at the end. So I want to give a special thank you. So I want to specifically call out David Morgan from the Westchester PMI. I gave him a copy of the presentation to review, and most folks give you a quick cursory review and say, oh, it looks good, thanks. David did a great job and really went through, dug into it, went slide by slide, and gave me outstanding feedback. So I think everyone on the call will benefit from that feedback. So I just wanted to make sure I thanked David for that feedback. In terms of expectations, I want to set some expectations up front. I know we have a lot of topics that we'll be covering today, but we're kind of taking a 1,000-foot view. So we're not quite flying in the clouds at 35,000 feet or so. But we're sort of hovering over some topics, skimming through them fairly quickly. But one thing I'm committing to in this presentation is giving you links to resources if you want to learn more about an individual topic, an idea of where you can go for that. Just want to call out up front, I'm not the preeminent expert on all these topics out there, but it's sort of a best hits that I've found in terms of my personal job search that I went through last year, and these are some of the things that I heard. In some areas, you'll see sort of competing schools of thought, and I'd welcome sort of other people's feedback at the end of the presentation there in terms of what's worked for you. So I think there's no, formula that you can apply blanketly across the board and be successful, but I think there's several key things that you can do, and then there's some things where people have success with a variety of techniques. So this is the intent of this presentation. It's not to say this is the definitive technique that you should use, but just to give you an idea of some places that you can look and some things that you can certainly try. So just to set the stage, the employment landscape has changed. I think this has happened over the last, I would say, 20 to 30 years. Some companies are going through these changes more recently. So some companies have sort of held to sort of the way things have been or were for a long amount of time, but they're changes, and so those impact us as project managers looking for employment or who are currently employed. So I think in the past you had things like significant tenure with a single company. My dad is a great example of that. He worked for, I think it was 33 or 34 years for a particular company, retired with a full pension, had to survive several layoffs to do that. But that was sort of his path. And the reality is that only exists in very few isolated pockets right now. So one of the trends is that, you're likely to work for many companies throughout your career, sometimes even reinventing yourself several times along the way. I'm sure some on the call have experienced that already. It used to be that you sort of say, I think I'm going to retire at X age. I think now what I've seen as a trend is that companies are sort of suggesting, hey, you might want to consider retirement now and offer a package, and that may be earlier than what you were planning on. So that's something to be aware of. There was sort of an implied long-term pact between the employer and the employee. Now we have a thing, especially in the United States, that's prevalent called at-will employment. So that basically means that my manager could walk into my office right now and say, hey Dan, we appreciate all you've done for us, but here's the door. So that's a reality that I think all of us, or many of us, are certainly living with. The idea of a full pension, when you retire, is likely all but gone. So a lot of it is we're responsible for our own savings for retirement. Someone may also contribute to that as well. The employer may choose to throw some funds in there as well. But largely it went from relying on my employer for my retirement to I'm really responsible for saving for retirement. And then lastly, medical benefits. I think that landscape has changed. In addition to many cost increases that we've seen over the years, I think it can be more and more difficult to provide coverage through your employer for things like your spouse. I was at a former company, and they changed the rules, so if my spouse happened to be eligible for employment for insurance through her employer, she could no longer be a part of my policy. So things are changing in the overall landscape, and I think this is just sort of a review slide for most folks, but just wanted to use that to set the stage. Some trends in project management that we've seen, I referenced at the bottom the PMI's Pulse of the Profession from the prior year, from 2017. There's obviously an emphasis on technical, leadership, and strategic skills. I think that's probably no surprise to anyone on the call. One thing is that generalist project managers are being looked at as a commodity and are not highly valued. So I think the idea of, some companies have an idea of a project manager as someone who just, creates a plan. Maybe it's a Microsoft project, maybe it's in Excel, maybe it's in another tool, and then they just sort of relentlessly follow up with people and say, are you done yet, are you done yet, are you done yet? That doesn't add a lot of value. And so companies have recognized that, and I think, some industries and some companies are really treating that project manager position as a commodity. So I think that's something that, as practitioners, we can change that trend as we show the value and demonstrate value on a continual basis in terms of the skill set that we offer that we'll get into a little more later in the presentation. So there's an interesting trend going on in terms of project management organizations, or PMOs. The number of organizations with a PMO has increased, but I'm also seeing a sort of a counter trend that several PMOs are actually being disbanded. So I think there are a variety of reasons for it. In some cases, I think the PMO sort of became an end to itself, became a little too powerful, and some companies felt wasn't delivering the value that was the intent when it was founded. And in other cases, I think agile implementations have also challenged the role of the PMO as well. So that's an interesting trend to monitor, what happens in that space. There is an increased emphasis on embedded PMs who have critical domain knowledge. So the company I work for, Navigators, is actually looking for a PM to hire right now. And we have we're an insurance company, a specialty insurer, and in our job rec, we have a strong emphasis on we want to see deep insurance skills.
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Malutis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.